Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. And we are here for the next session. I am here with Rebecca Densmore, and she is with Cypress Creek EMS out of Texas, and she's going to be doing a session called Taking Care of Our Own, Recognizing and Preventing Burnout and Building Resilience.
Thank you
for
having
being
me,
here.
Ricardo.
Yes, of course. And take it away.
Thank you. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm really excited to be able to present on this topic. We all know that mental health is definitely a topic that is kind of a taboo subject right now. And so I want to kind of talk about this. We're going to show a couple of videos on here. And I hope that y'all are able to get a lot out of it. I know that they've talked a lot about mental health throughout this conference. And so I hope to kind of end on a good note with some really good takeaways and some things that you guys can do on your own. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with the slides. So just a little bit about me. I've been a dispatcher for a little over 11 years. I started my career in Las Vegas, Nevada as a dispatcher for the Clark County School District Police Department. And then after moving here to Houston with my husband and my kids, I started with Missouri City Police Department. We dispatched police and fire. I was there for about 6 years. I also became a TCO at that time. Actually, I was a TCO when I was in Las Vegas, and I was a trainer there, and then trained when I was in Missouri City. Left Missouri City and went to Richmond Fire Department, where I was a full-time firefighter for 2 years and absolutely loved being on the truck. I loved being with the crews and everything. But due to some health issues, I got off the truck and I went right back into dispatch, right? You go back to your roots. And so I was there for another 2 years, and then that road led me up to Cypress Creek EMS, where I've been here for almost 4 years. And I'm a firefighter still. I have my EMT. I also have a master TCO in the state of Texas, EMD, EFD. Like I said, I have my instructor, and I absolutely love teaching. Teaching for me is my passion. I love being able to help other dispatchers learn just a little bit of what I've learned. I have just recently, within the last year, our company started a resilience team, Cypress Creek Resilience Team. And then within the last 6 months, I have ventured into an amazing journey where I have actually started my nonprofit organization. The name of it is it's called First In Resilience and Support Team, and we focus on first responder building their resiliency, having on-scene support for defusings and debriefings and CISM, and then having resources available for them afterwards. So that has been a huge passion for me. And I am very happily married for over 18 years now, and we have 3 kids, and I say 3 kids plus because we have 3 kids, and we just became foster parents. So we now have a new foster little one right now. So that's just a little bit about me. I want you to understand kind of where I come from so you can understand that I have been doing this for just a little while. I've seen some really amazing dispatch centers that I've been able to work through. But I've seen some really detrimental behaviors and some really bad coping mechanisms. And I've kind of been able to take that away, and that's what I hope to really show with you guys. So we'll go ahead and proceed to the next slide. And I want you guys to be prepared. There are going to be there's one of the videos that does talk about, it's a dispatcher about her experience. If at any point there's an area where you're just like, this is too much, it's hitting too close to home, please step away, come back when you can. But I just want to kind of prepare you guys that there are a couple of videos in here, and one, I don't want it to cause any trigger warnings for anybody. So we'll go ahead and proceed to the video.
So I've been fretting about this hike for a while because it was so long and it was so intense. It's a tough one. This is Savage Gulf near Beersheba, Tennessee. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Beersheba, there you go. It's long. It's over 10 miles. It's way down. You go down through the Stone Door State Park. Make your way around to a couple of waterfalls, Ranger Falls, Greeter Falls, and back across the top of the rim. And to be honest with you, I got down to the bottom, only like 2.5, 3 miles in, and I about turned around. And I did the little Ranger Falls, had a little bit of time to sit there and have a snack, contemplate where I wanted to go, looked at my map, came back up to the spur, and I had a choice to make. I can either go back out the way I came, which was shorter by 3 miles, or go the route. Now going back would have been shorter, but the climb would have been much more difficult. So I hem-hauled around a little bit, and I finally decided I'm just going to do it because I'm not going to have a chance again, probably get back over here for a long time. And it started raining. And it started storming. I just kept pushing. The river got pretty high. Got a little concerned about that. It's fine, kept pushing. Started climbing back out. I can't remember how many feet it is. I'll put it in the comments below, but it's a heck of a climb out. Thought I was gonna quit. Really did. I mean, just take 3 steps, catch your breath, take 3 steps, catch your breath. It was tough. Got to the top finally. Took forever. And the trail flattens back out and things get a little easier. I got to thinking about how many times in our careers in public safety that we get to the point where we want to turn around, we want to quit. We feel like we're all alone out here in the woods and nobody's had the same experience that we've had. You know, I didn't see one skeleton all the way down my trip here. Oh, more thunder. And when I got back to the top, the views are just crazy amazing because you're above the clouds again, and it's just gorgeous. Doesn't mean I'm not going to hurt. I promise you I'll hurt tomorrow. You know what? I accomplished something, and I'm scared of heights. But I accomplished something because, you just got to keep moving. And I know a lot of us in this industry sometimes have a hard time focusing on our personal wellness, focusing on the things in our life that make us a better human. I want to encourage you, if an old dude like me can get out here and miss a half a night of sleep worrying about it, but then get out here and actually knock it out, and even get off track sometimes, right? I missed the trail a couple of times, had to double back, almost quit. You can do it too. Do not give up. And there's going to come a time when it's time to leave public safety, right? We all can't stay here forever until we die. Just know when that time is. But until that time, take care of yourself. Because sooner or later, you're going to walk out of the storm and you're going to wonder, why in the world did I ever second guess my abilities? Keep your chin up. Take care of yourself. Because we need heroes like you. See you around.
I absolutely love that video. I love this statement. When you feel like quitting, remember why you started. I'm going to go through these next couple of slides actually pretty quickly, just because originally this presentation is actually to teach other people about what dispatchers do. But I think it's a great reminder for all of us, just exactly who we are and what we do. I love this. According to Nina, in February 2021, there were 5,748 PSAPs and SSAPs in the United States. There's over 240 million calls that are made in the U.S. every year. And you wonder why we get burned out. I think it's very easy to see. Typically, there's 3 types of dispatchers: police, fire, and EMS. And I love this one. This was actually something I got to experience recently this week, is dispatchers spend their entire shift with people in the most panicked moments of their lives, and those people's lives are depending on how quickly and how efficiently the dispatcher reacts. We have to respond so quickly, and we have to be our absolute best on their worst day. And if you don't think that that causes burnout and that doesn't cause you to get worn out, it surely will. We're going to proceed. I want to talk about some of the reasons why it's so difficult. And these are just some cold, hard facts. It's incredibly intense and stressful. You can only take so many calls for a mother that has a baby that's not breathing, or a mother that walks in and finds her son hanging from the ceiling. There's only so many times that you can have people trapped in a house fire and that you're not able to help. we have extreme highs and we have extreme lows. The adrenaline itself, you go from one call to the other call. I don't know if people are aware, but dispatchers actually make the least amount of money. According to any first responder dispatchers, they make about $38,000. That's just kind of the median. You got to understand, some dispatchers make more, make less, but this is kind of the median. What I found are at less than $40,000 a year. Paramedics are at 41, firefighters at 48, and police officers are at 51. So not only are there many states where dispatchers are not recognized as first responders, and I'm going to go into that here in a little while, but we literally get paid the least amount. Working emergencies such as Hurricane Harvey, I know that was one that we had a couple of years ago. Our most recent one was what we call snowpocalypse or snowvid, when we had that huge ice storm on February 14th of this year, and it literally shut down everything in Texas. I was at work for 8 days straight during Hurricane Harvey. Same thing. I was at work for 8 days straight. Never went home to my family. People were sleeping on cots. People were sleeping on the floors. All of that stuff. Long hours. I actually just got off of an 18-hour shift, so I could get up early today to teach this class. So I am working on about 3 hours of sleep. I worked a 12-hour and then slept for about 3 hours. So I'm kind of living this experience right now. Understaffed. I don't know a single dispatch center that is not understaffed. Mandatory overtime. A lot of people that, come 10 minutes before your shift, you get that tap on the shoulder and it's like, hey, by the way, you've been mandatory for overtime and you get to stay till midnight instead of getting off at 6 p.m., right? A lot of times you don't even know that you're going to have to do that. I know there are some dispatch that do shift work where you work, 1 week you work day shift and then the next week you work night shift, lack of sleep. I do not know one single dispatcher that is well rested. I don't know a single first responder that is well rested. I really don't. Missing holidays, we all know when we get into this, we all know that these are things that are going to happen, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect us. I don't think that my kids have celebrated Christmas on Christmas Day in several years. They know that Christmas is whenever mom's off, and they enjoy it and they appreciate the time that we're together, but it's definitely not a normal for us. And again, we don't get the same recognition as first responders. There are several states that are still, that are not recognizing dispatchers as first responders. Thankfully, in Texas, 2019, we were recognized as first responders, which is a huge blessing. And we're going to get into that, why that is so important here towards the middle of the conference. I'm going to kind of talk to you guys why that's so important. And then you work individually while other first responders work together. You are on that call by yourself. Yes, you might be in the room with other people, maybe, but there are some dispatchers that aren't. Some dispatchers are literally taking the call while they're dispatching it on their own. Excuse me. So you're alone in all of this stuff. You have, like I said, I was listening to one of the other sessions, and one of the dispatchers was saying that she has to go to the restroom with the door open, hoping that nobody walks in, with the radio, with the phones, because she's there by herself. She packs snacks. Now, we don't get a lunch break, but we are at least able to get up and go to the bathroom. But I mean, you're in there alone. And when you have a bad call, there's nothing that you can do. There's nobody to talk to. We have to control our emotions. I remember delivering my first baby, and I remember the lady saying, I'm crying. This is the first time I've ever delivered a baby. And I thought, me too. She goes, I'm sorry, I'm crying. And I'm like, me too. Right. I couldn't say that, and I had to swallow those tears, right? Those are good tears, but I've also had to swallow those really hard tears where you wait till you get off the phone and you hang up and you lose it, but you can't do that on the phone. When somebody's screaming at you and yelling at you and cussing you up one side and down the other, you can't get angry. You have to remain calm. We have to remain calm in all those things. Helpless. You're absolutely helpless. All you can do is send help. You cannot control how fast the fire trucks drive. You can't control how traffic is. You can't control any of that stuff. You can't control that there's no medics available when you need to send them on a call because they're already on calls. It's completely helpless when you have a lady that says she's in a wheelchair and she can't get to her husband, and her husband's on the floor in the bathroom, but she can't reach him because her wheelchair won't fit. And she needs to do CPR, and all you can do is sit there and listen to her scream for 10 minutes. You are helpless. And that definitely wears on you. No time to decompress from doing it all over again. You literally hang up the phone, you answer it again, and you never ever know what is on what's on the other end. It was recently said that dispatchers, firefighters can wear their bunker gear and their air packs, and they can protect themselves going into a fire. A police officer can have their gun and their bulletproof vest, and medics have gloves and masks and all that stuff. But when a dispatcher answers the phone, they are literally open and vulnerable. They have no way to protect themselves for what's going to be on the other end, and you never ever know what's going to be on the other end. And you have no time to process what you've just taken when you have to take another call. Again, we talked about the adrenaline highs and lows. The adrenaline highs are highs, man. When you find that kid that's been missing, or you get when you're doing CPR and you get pulse back, those highs are great. They're amazing. But when those lows happen, man, they are low. Most often, we don't know the outcome or the resolution. I would encourage you, if it is something that you are able to do, follow up with your medics, with your officers, with your firefighters, have them call up. Most of them don't understand where we're coming from, and that the only thing that we can do is paint a picture with our imagination, and we can't do anything else. We don't see what's going on. So ask them for, hey, can you tell me what happened on scene? Hey, can you give me a little bit of information? Because I kind of don't understand what happened there. And hey, did you guys get a pulse back? Like, just ask them, because most of the time they are very willing to share. They just don't know. And again, we talked about the helpless feeling. There's really nothing that you can do when you're waiting for help to arrive. Go ahead and proceed. I absolutely love this. This is probably one of my my favorite things that I've read. It was actually posted by Brittany on one of the dispatchers with Washington County, Virginia, and she wrote this. And I'm going to let you guys read it. I don't have to read it out loud, but I think it is absolutely perfect for a dispatcher. Our families don't know what we go through. Our families don't really know how to respond to us when we get home. They don't understand why we are feeling the way that we're feeling when we get home, because they just don't understand. I'll give you guys just a second to read that, and then we'll proceed. All right, we'll go ahead and proceed. And I'll share my presentation with anybody that wants to be able to see this for later on. I have no problem doing that. The effects of the job. So it's highly demanding physically and mentally. Sitting in a chair for 12 hours, not being able to get up and go to the bathroom, not being able to get up and leave to go on a break. That's physically, it affects your body physically and mentally both. Compassion fatigue, the cost of caring for others, profound emotional and physical erosion, feeling what your caller feels. We get that a lot. Vicarious trauma is profound shift in the view of the world around me based on the experience at work, pessimism, and cynicalism. I notice a lot of the vicarious trauma, especially the end part, the pessimism and cynical. You notice that a lot with police dispatchers. And I've dispatched, like I said earlier, I've dispatched police, fire, and EMS. I've also been a firefighter and an EMT, so I kind of see both sides of that. But I see that the pessimism and cynical is very prevalent in PD dispatchers and officers and law enforcement alone, because when they deal with the public, they're dealing with the worst of the worst. They're dealing with the people who are the criminals and the people that have been assaulted, and they're dealing with them in a negative aspect majority of the time, but also that's kind of where they're seeing society at. Burnout is created by prolonged emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion caused by low job satisfaction, powerlessness, and being overwhelmed. This is a huge one that we are seeing in public safety all around. Police, fire, EMS, dispatch, all of them. They are all burned out. There's more calls, there's more citizens, there's more issues than we have times in the days and people to run the calls. PTSI. I am a huge advocate for the I. It is not a disorder. It is an injury. It is definitely an injury. It's a biological injury that develops after a person has experienced or witnessed a terrifying event. Just because it was terrifying for you doesn't mean that it wasn't terrifying for someone else, and vice versa. Just because nobody else in the room was affected by it does not mean that it will not affect you. It could be a random general call, but something about that call, it hit you. And that is, that happens all the time. We'll go ahead and proceed. I'm just going to let you guys kind of read those. It's just some statistics about dispatchers. 2018, being a dispatcher, this one just absolutely floored me. Out of all the jobs in the world, being a dispatcher was the 13th most stressful job in the United States. Can you believe that? It just was absolutely crazy to me. These are just some statistics about first responders experiencing PTSI and where dispatchers are at in that. I love the last one. I love that it recognizes that more than double the burnout rate in other fields is dispatchers. 40% of dispatchers experience high levels of burnout. So we'll go ahead and proceed. I have to apologize to you guys. I have to have Ricardo proceed through my slideshow because I was having issues sharing my screen. So I apologize for that. He's doing an amazing job as my tech support. These are just some things that we're going to talk about. Why is burnout caused? What's causing us to burn out? Not knowing when or how to say no. And I'm going to give you guys just a little look into my life. I will tell you that the reason I actually started presenting this presentation is because I was basically seeing all of this or a lot of it in me. And so when I'm speaking to you guys, please understand that there's probably a mirror sitting right in front of me and I'm like telling myself this. So I am not above any of this. I probably am recognizing it a lot in myself. And so I'm really preaching to the choir here. Not knowing when or how to say no. I am the worst at this. I am a people pleaser, and I know most dispatchers are people pleasers. All public safety, that's what we do. We are here to help people. We are here to make people happy. We want to, that's our entire job. And we don't know how to say no, right? Because that's not our job. Our job is not to say no. We say yes. And that's going to cause you to burn out. Being in a toxic environment or around toxic people, you can only be around toxicity so long before it starts to affect you. Prioritizing others over yourself, again, that's that people pleasing. That's that knowing when to say, not knowing when to know to say how. You don't know. You just don't ever say no. You tell everybody yes. You put others above yourself. You never put yourself first. Unrealistic expectations. I say this as in, in 6 days, in 12 days, you work 138 hours. I did that with very little sleep. Yeah, sure. Of course I can do all of that. Not a problem. I can definitely handle that. Having little control over what you're doing. Again, you don't know what console you're going to be working. I know we have several different areas that we work with. We have several different radio channels that we work, and you just never know what you're going to be working that day. You don't know whether you're going to be a call taker or a dispatcher that day, whether you're going to be dispatching EMS or fire. So just not knowing the unknown. And then not being appreciated for what you do or understanding what you do by your crews, by your friends, your family. This one was really prevalent to me when I realized with my own kids, I have 3 kids. My oldest one is 16 now and the youngest one is 12, but I noticed that I would get home from work. And we all know that when we're at work and we're taking a 911 call, right, we skip to the facts. We want the Reader's Digest version, not the Encyclopedia Britannica, right? We want the short facts. That's what I want to know. Get on the phone, get off the phone, go on to the next one, especially in a busy dispatch center. But I was noticing that when I was getting home and my kids were talking to me, it was, they were wanting to tell me every single detail about their day. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's cut to the facts, right? I was being dispatcher as a mom and I was being very short, and let's cut to the facts. Okay, come on, continue. Okay, well then what? And I noticed that was something, and my kids didn't understand that. I didn't understand it until I stepped back and I looked at it, and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is something I'm doing. But they didn't understand why I was doing that, and they just thought I was being impatient and short and being mean. I had to explain that to them, that I was, that this is what I have to do every day, all day long, and so I'm having a hard time shutting that off. And then again, that superhero syndrome about I can do it all. Sure, I can work every single day for 3 weeks, not a problem. I can do that. We'll go ahead and continue. This is a video that, again, this is going to be one of those that it may be a trigger for somebody, so I'm just going to give you kind of a heads up. This is a dispatcher that actually attempted to take her own life. So I want you guys to understand that this video is coming up. If it is at any point too much, please step away, come back when we reconvene after the video. But it's some really good information, and I love the way that she is very, very vulnerable. So I'm going to let you go ahead and play that.
My name is Jessica Patuan. I am a paramedic and emergency medical dispatcher. I've been working for approximately 11 and a half years. When I was about 16 years old, my neighbor unfortunately hung himself. And from there on, I felt so helpless that I just wanted to change that and do something about it. So I got into paramedicine. When I first got into paramedicine, I never really had the intention of becoming a dispatcher. I was too young to work on the ambulance because I wasn't eligible for my Class 4 driver's license. So I went on my own and I took my dispatcher course, and then I got hired on. The magnitude of calls when you're working in a center that takes about 500 to 600 calls a day, you don't understand what you're faced with until you're actually doing it. You don't understand how many bad calls you can take in a run of a day, or your chances of taking a bad call are significantly higher. My breaking point was last summer. I had been dealing with depression and PTSD for a really long time, and last summer I took a hanging at the end of my day shift, and that was the one that did it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. You have to deal with the helplessness, that you want to be there, you want to be hands-on, you want to help them so much, but you can't. And you have this person screaming in your ear for you and begging you to help them, and you just feel so helpless. So it's like the reverse of what I wanted to do when I got into the business. I went home, I completely dissociated. What made me realize that I needed help, even though I've had a lot of people tell me, I couldn't see it for myself. And after I dissociated, I came home. I don't remember the drive home. I was just on autopilot. And next thing you know, I woke up in the emergency department and I was told that I had overdosed and injured myself. And from there on, I ended up being hospitalized for a couple days. I hadn't slept in over 5-6 days because I had had recurring nightmares and flashbacks. So my mind was just going in every which different way. So they finally regulated my sleep, and once I got some sleep on board, I realized that, okay, this is it. This is where this ends, and I need help. People initially didn't know how bad it was until that happened. I just kind of kept it hidden. I swept it under the rug, right? And with working where we work, it's so easy to go in and I don't mean check your head at the door, but you can forget about your problems for 12 hours and deal with somebody else's issues. And that is so easier than having to deal with your own demons. And for me, I wasn't open about what was going on. I didn't want to be just another person that's burnt out, another person with PTSD. I was ashamed of it.
Snow? Yeah?
I would see other people suffer and I'd be like, it's completely understandable. I'd be a lot more compassionate with those people suffering. But with myself, I was very hypercritical. And I'm like, okay, this is what you do for a living. So, suck it up and move on and just deal with it. The stigma is very high. I'm not sure why, because we're the ones who deal with these awful things on a daily basis, right? But I'm really happy to see that there's starting to be a bit of a culture change, that people are understanding that, there's an epidemic of suicides among first responders. So they're starting to learn that, the helpers do need help. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. We're not superheroes. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to have emotions. I did the best with what I had, but it got to a point that what I had just wasn't working for me anymore. So it's time to add new tools into the toolbox and help myself deal in different ways, healthy ways. Everybody's different, and everybody has different ways of dealing with it. For me, I was lucky enough that I got into a day treatment program. I was initially a little apprehensive when they told me it was going to be group therapy because I had to open up in front of a group of people and say what was going on. But that worked for me, right? And that might not necessarily work for some people, right? And I was able to, go through my program, and I was, doing really well, and I went back to work. But that was for me, right? Everybody's different. And the biggest thing is that you need to take the time. It's not something you can rush. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's something that's just going to be ongoing. It's like anything else. Yeah. It's just part of the journey.
I love where she says it's just part of the journey. We talked about, that was the previous video where he says it's a journey, right? What worked for me doesn't work for you. I love that she recognized that it might work for somebody, but it might not work for everybody. These are some things that we're going to talk about. This is where I really feel like the meat and potatoes of the presentation is going to come, is these next several slides, is what to look out for, and then how to deal with it. I love what she said about having a toolbox. What I want to do is I want to give you guys a lot of equipment to put in your toolbox. You have to figure out what works for you, right? We use a hammer for nails. We use a screwdriver for screws. We use certain things for certain tasks, and not everything is going to work for everybody. So I want you guys to kind of load all of these into your toolbox and then take them and use them what works the best for you. But these are some things that we do need to look out for. Chronic fatigue, right? We're all tired. I get it. But there's a point where it's more than just, I'm a little tired. Insomnia. Are we now taking medication where every single day we're having to take medication to wake up, and then we have to take medication to go to sleep? That becomes an issue. Physical symptoms such as chest pain, headaches, shortness of breath. I've known several dispatchers that have had panic attacks either on their way to work, the night before they go back to work. Just the stress of going back into that environment. We've had dispatchers that have literally had panic attacks at the console while they're dispatching. Anxiety, loss of appetite. We all know, right? They say dispatchers eat. It's the truth. We do. We eat. We love our food. All of us do. And so, are you normally where you eat, 3 meals a day and maybe a snack in between, and now we eat every other day? Or we have the exact opposite where we're overeating. That's something that we need to be looking out for. A lot of people are emotional eaters. Be cautious of that. Be cognitive of that. Recognize where that may be an issue. Depression. I think so often people think about depression looking like I'm sitting in a corner, crying, sucking my thumb, rocking back and forth. That's not what depression looks like. Sometimes depression is where you're normally an outgoing and fun person, and you are no longer able to do that. Depression looks different for everyone. Increased anger or irritability. Again, I saw that when my kids didn't understand why I'm like, okay, let's go, right? Like get to the subject. Let's get to the facts. Let's get on with life, right? And then them coming at me when I first came home from work and I had just had, a drowning, or I just had, a fire where somebody was trapped, and, oh, mommy, let me tell you all about my day. Yeah, I'm not there for it. And so I was getting angry and irritable about that. And that's something I had to recognize in myself. Loss of enjoyment, pessimism, all of those things are things that we need to be kind of looking out for. We'll go ahead and proceed to the next one. Detachment, that's going to be where you're no longer being able to enjoy the things that you normally enjoy. You normally go with your friends. Again, we're normally going out with our friends on a Friday night, and now we're not. We normally spend every evening with our family, and now we're not. Feeling of hopelessness and denial. Needing to stay busy. So I have learned through the resilience team, through teaching and all of this, that staying busy, that is me, is actually a sign of high functioning anxiety. I will tell people all the time, and I used to laugh and joke about it, that it's like sitting down and relaxing stresses me out. It does. I laugh about it because it's the truth, but I no longer laugh about it because it's the truth. I do not sit down and relax very often because it's extremely stressful. I have to stay busy all the time. When I'm busy, I'm fine, but it's because I don't have to deal with anything, and I'm too busy to deal with life. And so I'm realizing that on myself. Poor self-care, lack of productivity, where you're normally a pretty outgoing person, right? You're the first one to volunteer for something at work. If there's an extra project that needs to be done, or somebody needs help with something at work, you're the first one to volunteer for it. And now we're not, right? We used to garden every day when we came home from work, but now our weeds are overgrowing, and we're not productive, whether it be at work or away from work. Poor self-care, that speaks strictly for itself, where you showered every single day and now you shower every 3 or 4 days. Your clothes are wrinkled and dirty and your hair's greasy and can start a car with all the oil in it, right? We don't want that. Addiction. So often people think about addiction as addiction to drugs. I'm probably going to step on some toes right now, so be prepared. So often people think about being addicted is just drugs or just alcohol. You can be addicted to Amazon. You can be addicted to working out. Unfortunately, infidelity is very, very high in first responders. We have seen where even the addiction to outside relationships, sex, again, working out, you can be addicted to several things that are actually good and positive, but you can take them to a point where they're no longer good and positive. You take that away, and it becomes your escape. Where you would go home in the evening time and enjoy a glass of wine every evening with your husband and sit down and talk about your day. But now we're drinking a bottle to 2 bottles every single night, and that's the first place that we stop on our way home is to grab another bottle of wine. Like that's when we need to start kind of reevaluating things. And then thoughts of suicide. I think we can all be pretty open and honest with, we all say, oh, I'm so done. Like, I can't take it anymore. I just want to die. Right. You hear people say that all the time, but there's when it starts to become truth and that becomes something that you're thinking about a lot. We're making plans, we're making arrangements. That's when we really need to start reaching out for help at that point. I love this image. This one really, really spoke to me a lot. We suffer more often in imagination than reality. There's nothing in this world that can trouble you as much as your own thoughts. Stop overthinking. This is something that I struggle with. I do not know how to shut my mind down, and I overthink something to the end of the world. So we'll go ahead and proceed. This is where our meat and potatoes. All right, you guys ready to load up your toolbox? You ready? This is where we're going to talk about some things that you can do. And I think that people think that, I've got to do all of these things to prevent myself from burning out. Well, that's going to wear me out. These are simple things. These are things that I'm just going to remind you. Reevaluate yourself, ask yourself, have your family, your friends, how have I changed? Since I became a dispatcher, how have I changed? Again, that whole conversation where, I'm wanting my kids to hurry up and rush and rush and rush. I saw that change in myself. I had to step back and look and think about it and like, oh, wow, yeah, that's really not good. I noticed also with myself that I was very impatient with people, and where I would love to be in a group of people, and I was very outgoing, and I still am, but for me to be in a group of people, it's very uncomfortable for me now, because the first thing that they're going to ask you is, oh, what do you do for a living? Especially strangers. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a 911 dispatcher. And the first question that they always ask, I'm sure you've heard some pretty terrible things. And then they ask the next question, what's the worst thing you've ever heard? It's the worst thing I've ever heard. Do you really think I want to relive that with you? No, right? So I don't like being, I don't like being in a group of new people, because that's what they're going to ask. And then I'm going to have to relive that. And then it puts me right back on that scene or right back on that phone call. It was the worst thing then, and I don't want it to relive it. So for me, that was something that I recognized in myself, was the, how have I changed? Have a trusted shoulder to cry on or to talk to. Misery does love company. Talk to someone who can be objective and outside eyes. So I have some really, really good people that I have for that. Number one, my husband is an amazing resource. He is very open and honest with me. Like, yeah, no, you're not the same. You've changed here. Or you're not okay. Something's not right with you right now. My best friend is also a 911 dispatcher, which I'm extremely grateful for. One of my other very good friends is a firefighter. So I have those people who know me well enough to be like, yeah, you're not okay. Something's not right with you. They also understand the job. So when I tell them, this is what I just did, this is what I just dealt with, they can sympathize with that, because they know they've been there, they've done that. But then we also have some friends that we go to church with that are also first responders, but they know our family and they love our family. So we're their most important priority. So they're able to kind of look at it away from our family, but yet in the best interest of our family. And so that was kind of neat for us to be able to have kind of several eyes that we can go and talk to, and several shoulders that we can kind of go and cry on and bounce things off of. That's really, really important. So have that trusted friend where you're able to say, you know, am I doing okay? This is what I'm struggling with. I need an accountability partner, something like that. Eating better. Again, guys, this is something we all know. We all know we shouldn't have a cheeseburger and fries every single day, right? We shouldn't be eating, 7 tacos while we're sitting at our console, followed by a milkshake, right? So something that's really easy is, and I know we are all pressed for time. I understand it. Please trust me. I understand how time pressed is. But it's something as simple as planning your meal. When you make dinner for your family, well, I don't have time to meal prep, right? Okay, well, you plan dinner for your family. Plan an extra serving so you can take it to work tomorrow. Pack a couple of eggs, hard boil a whole bunch of eggs in the beginning of the week, and then you have those for a good healthy snack. Plan to make your health and what you put in your body is what you're going to take out of your body. So if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. We all know this. But if you eat healthy and you're making good, healthy choices from the beginning, the outcome of how your body feels, how you feel is going to be so much better. So again, it's just something as simple as, planning healthy snacks, meal prepping if you can. What we do on the weekends, because we work our long weekend is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Several of us will get together and one person will go grocery shopping, and we will plan all of our meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the entire weekend. And it usually costs us like maybe $20 each for everybody to eat for the entire weekend. And we plan healthy meals. So we cook while we're here, and we plan those meals for everybody. And it also helps us stay accountable to everybody else for, hey, I'm really trying to eat healthy. Drinking water. So we have this thing where we do the gallon challenge every day. And I have an Apple Watch. So for me, I set my timer. We work 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I set my timer on my watch for every 15 minutes. Sometimes we do it every 18 minutes if we get an early start. But we usually do about 15 minutes. We drink for 10 seconds every 15 minutes. And if you drink for 10 seconds every 15 minutes, within 12 hours, you can get your gallon done. There you go. That's a simple reminder, right? We have a little vibration on our watch, and then we just tell everybody, drink water, and then we drink our water. Limit your caffeine, right? As I'm sitting here drinking a Bang, I really just like the taste of them. But, right, we all know that we shouldn't be drinking, 7 Bangs and 3 cups of coffee every day. we know this, right? Again, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't. But again, if you're doing that gallon challenge, I will tell you there have been several days where I would get, drink 2 cups of coffee in the morning and then a bang in the afternoon just because. And then there would be times where I will literally have a cup of coffee go cold because I'm drinking my gallon challenge, right? I'm drinking my water, and it'll be 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I didn't even finish my cup of coffee. And I'll open a Bang or a Monster, and guess what? It sits there and it's completely full by the end of the day. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to drink it now. It's 6 o'clock in the evening, but my gallon of water is done. So again, that's something really good. So if you're kind of, drinking a lot, then drink your water. It's a great way to get that water in and to eliminate those caffeine. Again, alcohol, guys, we know that we're not supposed to be drinking a lot. We know this is nothing that we don't know, but just try to limit it. Set that goal to limit your alcohol and your caffeine. Hit the road, Jack, right? We all know that we need to get some exercise, some type of exercise, guys. It doesn't have to be, I'm training for a half marathon, me. It doesn't have to be, I have to go out and learn how to do this new sport or anything. It can literally be going for a walk, going for a 20-minute walk 3 times a day. It can be every time you get up and go to the bathroom, which if you're drinking a gallon of water, trust and believe you're going to be going to the bathroom a lot. How about every time you go to the bathroom while you're washing your hands, you do squats? It's that easy, guys. It's literally that easy. Take a ream of paper and do overhead presses with a ream of paper. We do dips while we're at our console. We try to do where we the first every hour on the hour we do an exercise 10 reps of some sort of exercise, whether it be jumping jacks or push-ups or whatever. We try to do this. Sometimes we get a little bit too busy and we're not able to, but guys, it's just something simple as getting exercise. I encourage you to get exercise at least 3 times a week. If you can do it, 5 times a week is great, even if it's just 20 minutes. Again, doing those squats when you go to the bathroom. Again, you're drinking your gallon of water, you're going to be there a lot. Having an accountability partner. I have a friend that she's my gallon challenge person, right? She knows where I'm at with my gallon, and we hold our gallons up each day, and we have that accountability partner. Not only just with our gallon challenge, but again, I have another dispatcher that we are accountable for each other. She tells me when I'm not acting right, and I tell her, and it's been extremely helpful. Getting plenty of rest whenever possible. I can be very honest and tell you, I honestly don't know how to turn on the TV in my own house. I'm so busy all the time that I just don't have the opportunity to sit down and watch TV. It's also not really a priority for me. I know there are a lot of people that do, and that's fine. But instead of sitting down to watch, an hour-long show, try to get in bed a little bit earlier, right? I'm staying up till 11 o'clock at night, and then I have to be up at 3. Again, making those good, healthy choices. It doesn't have to just be about eating. It can be about getting plenty of rest whenever you can. And then this is something that's really big for me, and I'm going to take a minute just to kind of stop on this one. Knowing what works for you. And I'm going to give you guys an example because this for me was a really, really big thing, and it's going to kind of continue into the number one, the picture, but then also some other things on the next slide I'm going to tell you guys about. So for me, I have had to learn with some pretty severe calls that we've had in our dispatch center that how I learn when I learned how I deal with things. I step out when I've had a bad call. I step out and I call my husband. That's the very first thing that I do is I call my husband or I call my best friend, who's the dispatcher. If I've had a really bad day, now you guys have to understand, I listen to like country music, a little bit of hip hop, right? Some pretty relaxed, normal stuff. I do not listen to screaming heavy metal music. It's not for me. I don't like it. It's just not something I do. However, when I've had a really bad day, I will throw my hair up in a ponytail, roll down my windows, put my sunglasses on. I don't care how hot or cold it is. Windows go down. And I listen to the most horrible, screaming, just ridiculous music the entire way home. I usually will take a screenshot of it and send it to my husband. And he's like, that kind of day, right? He knows. So that's kind of my way of saying, hey, I've had a bad day. This is where my mindset is at. If I'm not better by the time I get home, I will go in, I will put my running shoes on. It doesn't matter how long I've been at work. I will put my running shoes on and I will go for a run. My kids have come at me and they've been like, Mom, let me tell you about my day. And I'm like, you know what? Right now, Mom's not able to do that. I need to go run for my mental health and for everyone here. I'm not in a good place right now. Mom needs some time to be able to decompress and to be able to go and run. And when I usually, almost 99.9% of the time, by the time I get back, I am so much better. I've learned that about me. Those things work for me. That's what's in my toolbox that works for me. And that's where I'm going to talk about this. Never underestimate the therapeutic power of driving and listening to music very loud. That is me. This became very, very evident last summer when I had a really bad call. And as a mom, for some reason, drownings are my call, right? That's my big trigger. That's my bad call. And I had several the summer before that. And last summer we had a really bad one. And it really affected me. I had been dispatching at that time for over 11 years. I had been a first responder since right out of high school. It was the first time I ever had to leave work. My supervisor brought me in and he said, are you okay? And I actually shared this story with Ricardo on his Within the Trenches. It's actually one of his hashtag I am 911. It was a CPR and there was another dispatcher that was taking the call and they were doing CPR with they were getting the CPR instructions. There was another dispatcher that was dispatching the fire and ambulance crews and I got the mom and I had nothing to do. Everybody else was doing something and I wasn't. I had no task to do with mom on the phone. All I could do was listen to her scream. And I will tell you, it is a scream I will never, ever forget as long as I live. And so I remember that day when I left work. I actually left work. I didn't go home. And by the time I got home, I had one of my very good friends who I actually was building the resilience team with. And I said, they called me and they said, did you, how are you doing? I was like, I'm not okay. I'm okay, but I'm not okay. And they said, did you call Mark, which is my husband? And I said, no, I couldn't. They said, did you listen to your music? No, I couldn't. They said, did you go for a run? And I said, no, I couldn't. And they said, Becky, you're not okay. But I let other people know what works for me. And so when I was not able to do those things that I know work for me, that's when I knew I was not okay. And I wound up reaching out to the resilience team and we had a debriefing and it helped so much. But it was just so important for other people to recognize when I wasn't okay and for me to be vulnerable enough to do that. And I'm going to talk about that here on this next slide, some other things that we're going to talk about burning that resilient or combating that burnout. Again, prayer, meditation. I don't know what works for some people. I pray. It works for me. I don't know what works for you. Figure out what works for you. Setting boundaries as in tomorrow, I'm going to spend the day with my kids. I've worked for several days. I have several days coming up. Tomorrow, I am spending the day with my kids. I will not come to work no matter what happens unless we're in right? We all get mandatory for those drastic, major incidences. But unless something like that happens, if they put out a page for overtime, I am not signing up for overtime. I will not answer a page at work while I'm on a date with my husband. Setting those boundaries are so important. And letting other people know, hey, tomorrow I'm not going to work. Don't call me. I need to spend time with my family. Or tonight, I'm going to go for a walk. I don't care how tired I am. I will go for a walk before I go to bed. It might be 10 o'clock at night, but I'm going to go for a walk, right? Set those boundaries. Mindfulness and deep breathing. This was one thing that was really interesting for me, is knowing how to do mindfulness and deep breathing and everything. And I was kind of like, okay, whatever. And And I learned that there are some really, really good things in that. And just being able to put your mind in a right place was really important. Again, music, that works really, really well for me. I have one of my coworkers, he actually folds origami. And I thought, that is really weird, right? You fold little paper dragons. And he said, but Becky, you don't understand. He said, because you fold them in such teeny tiny little folds, he said, you can't think about anything else. That's the only thing that you can think about. He said, and it puts my mind in a right place. And I was like, wow, that's really awesome. Going for a massage, I go for a massage once a month. Our FSA, HSA, those actually cover massages. So I have a monthly membership for a massage, and I make that time to go get a massage, and it is extremely helpful. Journaling, some people write down their thoughts. That's important. If that works for you, that's definitely an option. For me, this is where I love fishing. Fishing for me is life. This is the only time I sit down long enough to do anything that's not working. But you have to find your joy. Go fishing, playing cards, painting, sewing. Figure out what works for you. When you are the happiest, what are you doing? Make time for those things. Therapy, mental health professionals, counseling, be willing to ask for help. I love what one of the other presenters said. He said, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. And being able to say, like I did, yeah, I'm not okay. Yeah, I need some help. I need some help here. And being okay with that. That's really, really important. And you can't pour from an empty cup. Guys, when we're completely empty and you have nothing to give, and there have been many, many days where I'm like, I have nothing left. I literally have nothing left. Be willing to recognize that. But figure out what works for you guys. Does folding origami work for you? Does listening to music, does playing music work for you? We had a coworker that playing a guitar was his stress reliever. And so when he had a bad call, I would call him up and I'd say, okay, go home and play guitar. 20 minutes, go home and play your guitar. But go home and play your guitar. And he would call me afterwards and say, it helped so much, just being able to get in that happy place, right? We'll go ahead and go on. Here are some resources. Again, guys, these are we all know several of these. There are several books that you can read about dispatcher stress, 50 lessons on beating the burnout, how to kick the habits, stress is optional. There are numerous classes on K-Love. You don't have to be associated with a religious affiliate. You don't have to be religious or not religious to be able to go to K-Love, but they have amazing classes on emotional first aid and a lot of really how to deal with people while they're in crisis, how to deal with people, peer support, just a lot of really good classes, and they're all free. The Healthy Dispatcher. Be willing to give EAP a chance. I know EAP, Employee Assistance Program, is done through your employer, but it is all free. It is it's all free, and you get so many sessions, and it's usually it's confidential. Your employers never know anything of what's going on and what you're talking about, but it is an option for resource. The First Responder Conference has amazing webinars. The one good thing about COVID is that they've been doing tons of great webinars that are absolutely free. They're usually about an hour once a week or once every other week. They also have a conference. There are several conferences throughout the nation each year. I would encourage you guys to look those up. I know there's one in Colorado in October because that's what I'm going to try to plan to go to. But it's just all a great resource for first responders. Creating Your Own Light with Travis House. He is a military vet, Marine military vet. He firefighter, police officer, back to being a firefighter, and he actually lost 9 brothers in the Charleston, South Carolina fire. He has a book called Create Your Own Light. He has a podcast. His language is a little not G-rated, so if that bothers you, just a heads up, but outstanding resource. And he really touches on some amazing things. He talks about parenting through PTSD and just some amazing resources. CISM and peer support, debriefings, you guys, that really is bringing all the people together. So it's having all the people, the police, the firefighters, the medics, the dispatchers all together that were on a call talking about that call. And you really get to see, people think it's to sit around and sing Kumbaya and hug each other and hold hands. It's not. It's a great resource to put all the pieces of a call together, and it will usually help out so much. Of course, I cannot have a resource page without having Ricardo's Within the Trenches. Huge resource, huge resource. I tell everybody about it. On Scene First with Tracy Eldridge. I am beyond thankful for Tracy. She has been a dear friend and mentor to me, and there's no way I would be where I am now, especially in recognizing mental health and dealing with all of that without Tracy. I absolutely adore her, and her podcast has been amazing. Code Green, Healthiest You. That's some people have that with their insurance, the Healthiest You. It's a free app that you can download, so take a look at that. And I do have 2 resources up here that are actually our page that we have, cypresscreekrt.com, which is there are on that. If you go to the resource page, there's actually a list of podcasts, books, classes, all different kinds of information. And then the nonprofit organization that I just started, be patient with me because we're just redoing our website, but it's called firstinsupport.com, or First in Resilience and Support Team. It's firstinsupport.com. It's just, we're working on it, but that's going to be a great way that if you have somebody that is needing some assistance, you can always reach out to us. Even if we're not in your area, we can get in contact with people that are in your area and get you hooked up with some good resources on that. EMDR therapy. Ricardo, if we have time for this, I'd love to show the video. If we can't, I understand. If we're not able to, guys, look up EMDR therapy. It's a great resource if you're dealing with some trauma, some pretty severe trauma. It's basically rewiring your brain and kind of working through that trauma. So we'll go ahead and proceed.
If you have experienced something horrible and have developed psychological symptoms such as flashbacks, fears, sadness, or sleep problems, you may well be helped by EMDR, a proven and effective therapy. Suppose you have been confronted with a violent crime, an accident, you have been bitten by a dog, or you have had to deal with sexual abuse or violence at home. Such a powerful experience is stored into your brain with a lot of emotions. Once such a memory is stored in your long-term memory, it can bother you for quite a long time. The disturbing memory keeps coming back unintentionally, for example with feelings of powerlessness or believing you are not worthwhile. EMDR therapy can help you get rid of these complaints and feelings. At first, an EMDR therapist will ask you to activate the memory of this disturbing experience from your long-term memory. The memory is now stored in your short-term memory, also called the working memory. Then the EMDR therapist will ask you to focus on this horrible event. From there, the therapist will move his fingers in front of your eyes rapidly back and forth and ask you to track his fingers as best and as fast as you can. By keeping a traumatic memory in your mind and tracking the fingers of the therapist at the same time, the working memory gets to process a lot of information at the same time. As it is so much information, the image becomes blurred and loses its emotional charge. When the emotional charge of an image lessens, it also becomes easier to think differently about the experience. You will notice this because you feel less powerless or you feel worthwhile again. The intrusions have gone and you feel less anxious. You feel less depressed, you sleep better, and because you have managed to leave the experience behind you, you start enjoying life and looking forward to the future.
I was love reading in the comments where some people have tried EMDR therapy and it's been a little bit too much for them. And some people have said it was a miracle worker. I have heard amazing things about EMDR therapy that if you're able to do it and it works for you, that it's either it absolutely does not work and it's way too much, or it can literally be a lifesaver. So it's again, guys, these are just resources. My goal is to give you so much in your toolbox that it's overflowing and you have more tools than you have projects. I hope that you guys are able to come away with a few things, at least one or two. I think the biggest thing is to be able to step back, recognize what works for you in your life, and be able to make time for yourself. And that we're all struggling with these things and we're all there for each other. So are there any questions that we have? So there's my information, guys, if you want to take a look at it. You guys are more than welcome to contact me at any time. We all know I'm a dispatcher, so if I don't answer my phone, send me a text and I'll return your message. But that's a way that you can contact me. That's my email directly, and you guys can contact me for any questions. If you guys want any of these resources, I'd be more than happy to. If you don't want the whole presentation, not a problem. I can send you just a list of the resources and any assistance that I can be. Ricardo, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's a blast as always when I get to work with you.
Hey, it was a lot of fun, and we got the PowerPoint figured out. I actually pulled it up on my tablet too, so that I knew exactly how many points were in there.
Oh, cool. See,
yes.
That's awesome. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, we got it figured out. Thank you for being here, for being a speaker, and for doing this, this important session. It was it Virginia or North Carolina? Which one was
Carolina.
it? North Carolina. So yeah, you did this one, North Carolina. Still the same.
This one was a little bit smoother.
It still worked out either way. The impact is the same and very powerful. Some excellent information. So everyone who is here right now, make sure to check out everything that Rebecca's doing. Her and her team. Send her an email. Also, join the Discord community. You can all connect there as well. And then, you were able to see everything in the comments. A lot of people going back and forth and just showing so much love and support for each other, but also for this session that you did. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. It's been a blast as always.
So we're going towards the end here, and we are going to start the final session. I will be closing out the final Dare to Be Great here with Imagine Listening. So get ready for that. We'll be back here in just a couple minutes.
Awesome.
Have a good
Thank
one,
you
everyone.
guys.